Unscripted.
Unshackled.
Uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for mature ears only.
It's Miguel Fuller.
I would show anything. I'd show my hee-hee and my hoo-hoo and my ha-ha.
Holly O'Connor.
Hey, Daddy, you want to take this to the bedroom?
And Scotty the Body.
I am officially not only the grill daddy, but I'm a hot grill daddy.
Oh,
It's the Miguel and Holly Uncensored podcast.
Only from Hot 101.5. Tampa Bay's new hit music.
Thank you for listening to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. We are on our YouTube page. You can see Miguel and Holly Uncensored. We have it in the video form there.
Yes.
And you can always leave us a rating and a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please. We need it. It helps us out.
Yes.
And it makes us smile when you do it.
Yes. I was going to say, just real quick before you dive into anything else,
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that yesterday I finally subscribed to our own YouTube channel.
Oh, good.
I know.
All the alerts.
It's been a minute.
Thanks, Holly.
Well, I'm actually kind of mad that I did because last night while we were watching YouTube, as we do every day, one of our videos popped up and it was Tampa Bay Secrets.
Oh.
And Maya was like, "Oh, can we watch that?" And I go, "No.
no.
See, we have adult content.
Yeah.
Do we
I-
put the fact that we have adult content? Because
There's
I mean-
a setting you click. It's like,
No,
this is not under, whatever.
No, I always click it's not for kids. Like
Yeah.
you have to click if it's for kids or not.
I don't know how it showed up because I have the like parental restrictions on. So I like seeing it. I was like, oh, jeez, now she's gonna want to watch Mama
Sorry, Ma. You gotta
talk
wait.
about threesomes and
Wow.
nonsense.
Hey, come on, threesome.
So anyway, that's the end of that story.
Oh, well, if you want to see not only Miguel and Holly Uncensored, but you can also see all the other stuff that we do. I was just talking with a friend of mine and they were like, y'all social media presence is like so awesome. Like, how many people do y'all have like working like on your staff? And I was like, oh God. Oh, stop!
Wow, that's
You gotta
warranted.
chuckle.
Yeah.
Y'all, like, mainly it's the two of y'all. I don't even do that much stuff. It's Miguel and Scotty. Mostly Miguel, right? Am I right?
Right now, it's a lot of Miguel. I haven't had any time to do anything recently with it.
Period.
And
We're just thankful that Miguel knows how to social media.
Yeah.
So it made me giggle and I was very happy about it. But that's why I told Holly and Scott the other day, I was like, y'all should look at the YouTube channel because I feel like I've really put a little extra work
It's
into
on
it
and
recently.
poppin'. It's
So
on and popping.
thanks. Real quick before we dive into stuff, I do want to say shout out to Katie Laskay, who left us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
She said, from Tampa to Anchorage, I love Miguel, Holly, and Scotty. I used to listen to your morning show every day on my way to USF, and it always made having an 8 a.m. class worth it. I have since moved to Anchorage, Alaska.
I
And
mean, that is the legit other side of the country. You can't
literally.
get farther in distance, I don't think.
No. And though I never thought I'd miss that heat, I truly miss Tampa so much. Listening to your podcast brings me such joy, comfort, and a little piece of home all in one. One thing I'd like to request is creating a separate Miguel and Holly podcast and using it for blown off episodes.
Oh, wow.
Those were always my favorite to listen to, and I'd love to have them in podcast version. If not, no worries. I just want to make sure you all know how much you mean to me from 5,000 miles away. Keep doing what you're doing.
Ding, ding, ding.
I
That's so
love
great.
that request, but listen.
Well, I mean, what is it? You mean like podcast form, like get on here and just do a long form of it? Or...
No.
No.
Basically just posting it to a
To
podcast feed
Platforms.
so it can
Oh.
just be there.
Well, technically, it is on a feed.
I know. I was going to say, just
I was like, I do that every day. You could get that.
it's more work for the listener, but you just do have to go to the Hot app.
Yeah, the hot
Every
app.
one of them is on. Like, it's not going to play the same way a podcast does, like
Yeah.
on Apple iTunes or on Spotify or whatever you listen to podcasts on. But it is online. It is free. You can
Yeah.
scrub the audio. So let's work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. You can have it there and listen on an app or at hot1015tampabay.com. We have like 5 years worth of them. So there's lots there
Good
to
Lord.
go through.
It's a lot.
It is. It's a lot. It's
We've
a
been
lot
doing this for a long time.
Yeah. And if you listen to the podcast, but you don't listen to our on-air show, that's where if you go on a date with someone, they don't call you back. We call the other person to find out why. And we do it every day at 7:40 and 8:40.
Every day.
All right. I was just making sure that we sounded okay on the video.
Oh, do I need to jiggle my cord?
No, that's why I was just making sure. Holly, keep talking.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking about how we do blown off every single day.
Well, you
and
know,
I
like
love it.
on
We're
the
good.
topic of blown off, like I
Mhm.
have this weird. I've noticed this now that I'm stepping back into like meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a fear of being blown off. Like legitimately, like I don't. I guess I've just never had it in 6 years.
I've never been blown
No,
off.
well, I've been in a
because I'm
relationship for a quarter of
so
my life.
Well, no,
great.
but that's I mean, that's
I
valid.
noticed it literally like, because there's a couple people I like just chat with, just friendly. And now, let's say if somebody doesn't respond like super quick or something, like my
Mhm.
brain, I notice it. It's like, boom, wait, am I about to get blown off? And I don't know if I'm really getting like upset about it yet, but then it kicked in where yesterday I was like, wait, what if I do?
That's why this segment is so popular, obviously, because people deal with it left, right, and center. I
Right.
mean, you're gonna get blown off at some point and it's gonna suck.
Well, no, you know what's funny though? Because I was like, if they do though, don't they know like I'm probably gonna come on here and talk about it? Like,
Not enough incentive to stop the blow off.
I guess
Girl.
it's just interesting to me where I was like, huh, am I gonna get upset if I get blown off? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, even
I
if you
will.
don't even like the person that much, because
Yeah.
it's like, how dare you?
That's what I thought. So it's a weird fear
But-
I'm having right now.
But that's where it comes from. It comes from fear.
Yeah.
The person doesn't want to have that conversation with you. It's scary.
Yeah.
What if you react negatively? Then what are they going to do? Like, it's a fear. That's why so many people get blown off, because they don't want to have the conversation of, this is not going to work. And that's exactly why this segment works so well.
It's true, and that's why I literally enjoy it. Um, uh, Not when it's like the crazy ones where it's like, really, you didn't know why you were blown off? Like, are you that delusional?
Well, there's a lot of people that don't like to see their own faults.
no,
Yeah.
but I always did. I mean, and I can say that the blown off segment was sort of inspired by who now is a friend of mine. His name is Chad, who lives in Panama City, and we
Yeah.
dated like, oh my gosh, Hallie, we've almost been here 6 years.
I know.
I was like, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. No, it was like 7 years ago.
Isn't that weird?
Gosh.
Time is a construct. It just becomes like, didn't that just happen?
Yeah,
Nope.
no, 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
This guy Chad and I were chatting. We were living in Panama City, and it was around Christmas time because I remember he came to a lot of like Christmas parties with me.
I remember you guys going to Christmas parties.
He came to the company one where we worked at the time, and it was like, hey,
That's right. And I mean,
Mhm.
listen, you bring somebody to the company Christmas party, people that start asking questions.
Right?
yeah.
They're like, what's going on here? And then it was Christmas break, and I went home to Atlanta. And then I was talking to another friend who like didn't know that I was talking to Chad, and they were like, ooh, this guy hit me up and we've been chatting. And I was like, oh, what's his name? And they were like, Chad. And I was like, just, and I remember to this day, I was at one of my best friends, Brandon's house. And at that time, he was dating someone who was a lawyer. So they had this like big old, I called it like a Real Housewives of Atlanta house. And it was like so dramatic because like I was in his like foyer talking on the phone with his friend. And I was like, oh, I got the phone. I was like, Brandon, pour me some wine. And we were like sitting around their little island. And he was like, tell me about it, boo. What happened? I was like, I just don't.
You're like, but he didn't say anything. And like, I believe you may have called me because I was
probably
even like, he did what? He was just at the White Elephant Christmas party that we were both at, and I was nice to him. Oh wow, yeah, it was a time.
It was a time. And so then like I sort of like stopped talking to him, let it cool off. And then about 6 months later, I had been blown off by someone else. I don't even remember who that was.
You got
no.
blown off a lot.
I did.
Oh.
I did.
But then
Well,
we found out.
We did. Why? Because I called him one day and I was like, hey, I know
Called
this.
Chad.
I called Chad
Oh.
and I was like, this might be awkward for you, but why didn't it work out? Like, why did you automatically, like, was it something I said? Was something I did?
Was it
and-
you? Like,
Yeah. And he told me this, and I will never forget this, and it stayed with me. He said one night we were at the bar, the Splash Bar in Panama City.
Good old splash bar.
Good Lord. And like I used to get so drunk because I got free drinks since I endorsed the club on the radio and I hosted the drag show. So that was like part of my payment, free drinks. And he was like, you got really drunk. And he was like, your true self came out. And he was like, the true self isn't bad. You're just really needy. He was like, at your core, you want love and you want someone to take care of you because you take care of everyone else and you've always had to take care of yourself. And so you want someone to be there for you in the most intimate way possible.
But it's not just want or need, it was like crave.
Right. It was this desperation at that point.
There it is.
This desperation.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's no problem with that. I just don't have the emotional bandwidth to do that. He was like, I am not that person. He's like, I'm cold. I'm friendly, but I don't have the warmth and the emotional bandwidth to be able to take that on.
And nobody should.
No.
Because
Nope.
when you're with someone, when you're choosing a partner, that partner cannot become your parent.
Right.
That partner cannot become your safety blanket because
Mhm.
that person, that human cannot do those things for you. What's in it for them?
Right.
Not only
Right.
that, like how could their spirit handle having like basically like if you go down to the core of it, a needy child
Right.
and then try to have an adult like relationship with that person. So he, even though he was talking about how he couldn't do it, it was no one could do that.
No.
Yeah.
And so that really made me start my journey of sort of understanding. I think that really started my metamorphosis when I turned 30 on how to finally find joy because I always dealt with this loneliness that was always inside of me. Like, and it's such a cliche saying that, like, you know, you're the life of the party and everyone's there, but you still feel alone. Like, that was me.
It's
Like,
true.
and
Yeah.
especially at that point in our careers, because we had broken off with Kramer at that point. I went first back to Panama City from our job here in Tampa, and we had started the Miguel show with Mandy and Holly. And so I was hosting my own morning show for the first time in my life. I had my own apartment.
Ooh.
And I mean, I was making for Panama City like decent money where I could afford to like do things, but then I would just come home
Yeah.
to myself. Whereas at that time,
For the first time.
for the first time. And so, like, before I lived with Holly and her ex-husband, and by that time you were still with him and you had just had Maya.
No, I was
No, you were pregnant. Yes, right. You were pregnant.
Pregnant.
And then Mandy had 2 kids and a husband. And so I would just like go home to
Yeah.
myself every night. And it's like you get to this success and you are celebrating by yourself, you
Right.
know? And so then I was like, how do I dig myself out of this? Because it's not just like all right, I'm not going to be desperate. I really had to learn over that time how to truly like love myself and find myself. And through some stumps and bumbles, through a couple of like dating situations and relationships here in Tampa, I finally found I can be happy on my own.
Yeah.
I can be by myself and be okay.
That's tough for people.
It is, but I can tell you the difference in how a relationship runs when you get to that point.
Mm.
So, like when Abe and I first got together, in the past, when I would first start talking to someone, and like we started off like that first night when he told me that he liked me, I was like, "Ooh, I like you too." Like I always did, but I just didn't know it was be reciprocated. Okay, I am down for it, honey. Yes.
Nope.
And then it would have been on. I would have been like every day in the morning, "Good morning, how's it going? What's going on? What's going?"
And any one little slip up, when I say slip up, I mean something that didn't meet your already in mind expectation for him would have
Mhm.
been seen as like, why is he hurting me?
Right.
Wow.
Why? But then I was just like, "Bitch, I like you, but I don't need you." Like, I'm
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
I'm fine.
that's
I don't
cool.
need you, bitch. I love you. I mean, I like you.
Yeah.
And so that really helped us become friends and then turn into a relationship.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say is that you've got to understand where your emotional, where you are emotionally.
Like your pitfalls or your traumas or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And like, because thanks to Chad, he saw that when I was drunk. He wouldn't tell me like what I said that made him say that. And I was like, I kind of don't want to
They
know.
don't need to know, no.
Nobody needs to know. That's fine.
don't
I
remember for a
need
reason, it's
you. I need you.
Why don't you love me more? But it's like that was actually
Ugh.
really cool of him to be frank
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I don't know many people that could do that.
No. But then that in turn made me be honest with other people after that fact about why I didn't want to be with them. Like I
Yeah.
remember one guy in particular when we first moved here who remember Holly, I went on the date with the guy and I think it was after the first date he had flowers sent here to the radio station.
Oh wow.
Do you
After
remember
the first
that?
date?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes. After the first date, and I was like, it's too much.
That's a lot.
It's
I do remember that.
it's-
Not
it's
that
too
you don't
much.
like the flowers.
No,
it's
the
nice.
flowers are great, but it was just like
Too
I
much
was
too soon.
right.
He was the needy person.
Right. And I was like, I'm not. And so literally I was like, I need to nip this in the bud.
Mm.
And so
Literally.
I took the flowers and I crushed them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I sent him a text and I was like, thank you so much. The flowers, that was such a sweet gesture. But I have a feeling I'm not where you are emotionally.
Wow.
I like you as a person,
Ugh.
but I don't feel the same connection romantically that you feel. So sorry, but I just wanted to be honest with you. And he wrote me this really nice text message and he was like, well, I'm hurt, but thank you for taking the time to tell me that because no one else has ever told me why they didn't want a second date.
Correct.
People really respect you when you say why you're not interested. That's why I keep telling you, Scott, to just be honest with people. I know you're like, well, I don't want to hurt a girl's feelings when
Yeah.
I get to that point. People will appreciate, like, they're going to be hurt, but they're in the bigger grand scheme of things, they're going to appreciate the fact that you were honest with them about whatever the case or situation is.
But sometimes you can't be fully honest because what if it's like, okay, what if it's not just, hey, you sent like this, an action you did is too much.
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
that's
yeah.
actually
Right.
cool. But let's just use a real example in Scott's life, and I won't
Mhm.
give any marking details.
Mhm.
But it was like an
An attribute, pretty
an
much.
attribute of a person's like physical characteristic, and I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like weight or hair color, but like
It was
something,
like a mannerism.
a mannerism.
Okay.
Let me just make something up so that we don't get specific. Let's say it is
Like the way they eat.
That would be, yeah, like if it's something like that where it's like that's just them,
Right.
that's
Right.
not going to change.
that's
It's
not going to change. Like,
but I don't want to attack that.
at
Like
that
that's the thing. Like I don't want to
point-
be like, hey, like I don't like that about it. And then they're self-conscious about it. That's what I absolutely
Right.
don't want because I
So-
have so many things like that.
that's where it becomes hard to be fully honest because that's not something that they can change, but it's like it's not working for you. You're like,
Yeah.
I see how you ate. I see how you like, do that. And
Mhm.
I cannot be with that.
Yeah, like I just know it won't work. And that's I think for me it's like I'm looking at it almost as in steps because my first again, like I haven't like really dated ever. Like ever. Never
Yeah.
have gone on this casual dates, one and done. If it doesn't work, bye. So like I'm really trying to get myself to be like, okay, like if it's not working, like let's save ourselves time. Boom. And be like, all right, let me not drag this on because my first initial thought is, oh, let me just keep talking. Let me kind of let it fizzle out. I'm like, wait, I don't want to waste your time.
yeah.
And I don't want you
Mm.
wasting my time because,
Right.
God, that's like my biggest thing. I definitely don't have any time to waste.
Right.
So let me not waste yours. And so I'm really pushing myself to be like, okay, start being honest about as soon as you feel like it's like there's no point in going for yourself, do
Mhm.
the same for the other person. And it's harder than I thought. Like it really is hard for me to be like, this is gonna suck. Hey, this isn't gonna work.
It's
I
awful.
should not give this any extra thought.
It
Right.
is awful.
It
but
is, and
It's
it's
necessary.
it's not fun, but I do feel those exercises from
Yeah.
what I've experienced help not only just in your personal life, but it helps you with having those tough conversations in like your work life or
Yeah.
in family situations where you can say the tough things. Like the toughest conversation I've ever had to have in my life was when Holly and I took this job and Mandy didn't get the job here at Hot 1015. And at the time, our agent and our then program director who hired us was like, well, do you want us to call Mandy? And I said, no, because I'm the person that said the three of us are going to work together no matter what.
Yeah.
And then I reneged on that statement. So it has to be me. It's a cop out to have someone else do it.
Yeah.
And so then going to her house, knowing that literally this moment is when a friendship, because it wasn't just a work relationship, it was a friendship.
Yeah.
Right.
That this moment, like it'll be always this defining moment will define our friendship or possibly destroy it.
I actually thought about that like this week for some reason.
Really?
I thought about that whole Mandy conversation and I thought about the baby because she had just had a baby.
She just had a baby. And
Did
like
she
literally,
not literally did
Yes.
she not welcome you into her house and put the baby in your arms?
like I will never forget this. When it was January of 2015,
Mhm.
when we got the final call that like, hey, they're only offering the morning show position to Holly and Miguel, and our agent was like, do y'all want to do
Take
it?
it or leave
And
it.
we were like, is there any way for Mandy to come? And they're like, no, they don't have budget for it. It's a budget thing.
Yeah.
So we had to make the decision. We made the decision, yes. So I remember I drove, because we were in Panama City Beach. I drove my car to the beach. I sat and I looked out at it and I was like, Jesus, please help me have the right words and the right temperament, because I could be ruining someone's life at this moment. So then I drove to her house. Actually, it was her mom's house, because her kids were at her mom's house that she picked them up from school. And her mom, her two kids, and her new baby were all there. They're like, hey, Miguel, hey, Miguel. And then her mom was like, hey, have you met Carter? And she put little baby Carter in my arms. And I literally was like, I'm about to like break your mom's heart. And so I gave Carter back to Mandy's mom. And then I was like, Mandy, can I talk to you? We went to a guest room and I looked at her and I just remember looking her in her soul saying, I'm sorry. And then she looked at me and I think she knew at that moment what I was about to say. And I was like, I'm sorry. And oof.
I know, I'm feeling it too. It's hard.
Ugh.
It's hard. And I don't want anybody to think for 1 second that it was not this
No,
difficult.
because people really came after us. They're like, you
6
money
years later, I'm tearing up
backstabbing,
about
right.
it.
I just remember
Oh,
truly understanding what it's like to break someone's heart.
yep.
And I was like, I'm sorry. They only offered it to Holly and I, and we're going to take the job. And we tried every way. And she was like, I understand. And this is all through tears. And then she said, just promise me that you won't replace me. And I was like, we will not do that. There will never be another Mandy Williamson.
And there hasn't.
Nope. And so then we like dried our tears and we hugged. And it was like,
Wow.
that was tough.
I wasn't even there and I'm crying. And then it turned into this whole
Then there was
thing.
drama after that. But
Man, it was a hard life moment.
it was. But that moment, I feel like all taught us something different. It taught me, I feel like I grew up in that moment because I had to make a big boy decision. I had to put my big boy pants on and live with the decisions that I made, because we could have said, no, we're good. We're going to stick together. And who knows where we could have been now. But I had to own my decisions and couldn't, let someone else do the dirty work for me. And so that helped me gain a little confidence that I could have those tough situations and weather the storm. Because we went through a crazy storm for the next 3 weeks after that fact.
Yes.
And before we got here to Hot 1015, but it helped me when we got here to be able to like have those tough conversations. And I really do think it led to me gaining some confidence that I never had before.
Yeah.
Wow. So we say, be honest.
It is a process. No, I am. I actually, I do pat myself on the back a lot of the times right now, because I'm like, okay, like you're getting good at being honest. It's very easy, I think, to tiptoe around it. It's very easy to be like, okay, well, blah, 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 keep leading you on. I just don't want to do it. And then, especially, I guess the hardest thing right now is for me, like, being honest with where I'm at in the whole situation. Cause I feel like, I just kind of like it to be understood, and I don't like to keep bringing up the topic. But when I'm like, when somebody starts chatting with me, it's like, okay, I hope you just know that it's like, I don't have any idea where my head's at. And recently I've definitely discovered that I'm like, I don't know. It's like I feel like emotions are coming out more often right now. Like, and I'm not really, I don't know how this is gonna come out, because maybe I'll start getting really emotional. Right now I'm not in a very emotional spot. But like I've just been having a lot of like just sad moments recently. Like I've had a lot of dreams, I've had a lot of thoughts about my mom recently, where it's like, fuck. And it hurts like hell. And then I start thinking about where I'm at. And I think that's where, as I was, chatting with people, and I notice where people, if they don't respond, like whatever, but it slowly starts to turn the wheels of like, I think maybe yesterday I like had that moment where I was like, fuck, I'm alone. And it took a second and it sucked, but I was like, it has been something I've been telling myself of like, wait, you're going to grow so much from being alone. Like you need this time to be alone, but in the moment it sucked. But also I do think it's like, now it's been a couple months with everything that's happened in my life, and things are starting to like, very, scary time where things are starting to resurface, and I'm starting to think about it more. And I knew it was going to happen,
Is the numbness wearing off? Is that what's happening?
Maybe I think it's because there's so many great things happening. I get emotional.
Oh.
But no, it's like there's a lot of great things happening in my life right now. And it's like the hardest thing is it's like I wanted those people to be able to celebrate with me.
Yes.
And, like I give all the credit in the world to my dad because he has definitely taken on the role of being like that cheerleader that my mom was.
Yeah.
And there's been, because I'm on doing middays now on Hot and like, for now filling in, hopefully something comes from it. But it's like, I just think about it so much now where it's like the first thing I want to freaking do is like when I'm driving home and it's late, it's like, I just want to call my mom.
Mhm.
And I miss that so much. And it is resurfacing. It sucks. And that's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago about me going to therapy. And I had a friend bring that back up to me, like, when are you going to do that? I'm like, I know I've been literally too busy to even put the time and effort into it, but it's something I need to do because it is moments like this where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to process it. And
You're
it
like,
hurts.
I need
so
tools.
much.
What tools
Right.
do I use?
I want I am looking for the tools and I'm trying to figure out the tools, but it's scary kind of stepping into it because I'm like, fuck, like more dreams are happening, more moments are happening where I'm just like in my car alone and I'm just like, holy crap, like my body hurts. Like it just hurts and it's so hard to explain because it's like, I can't do anything. And that
Yeah.
sucks. It
No,
really
that
does.
feeling is one of the worst feelings as a human, feeling powerless
Yeah.
Right.
in those moments.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
you're
there
just
are tools to help you reclaim that power, but like I'm
Yeah.
not a therapist as much as I'd like to play one.
right.
I don't have those, but a therapist would.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, that's like, again, I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it until I actually sit down and make the appointment, make it happen. But it's like, that's one of the biggest things I want to do because I want to have that outlet to be able to talk about things openly. And that's why before the new year started, I was going to the group like grief sessions to just have a room to just talk openly. Like that's literally what you just did. You went in there and you just talked and it felt so good because I feel like a lot of times it's, I don't like to be that. Again, I don't like to be a burden on others and bring things up because it's like, whether it's not the time or the situation or whoever wants to hear it, but it's like, I realize that there's so many more thoughts going on in my head that I'm not even like putting out there. And I'm like, God, you need that release. You need the
You
release.
have
And I have
to.
to figure out how I'm going to get that release. So it all kind of leads down to that feeling of like, oh crap, like I need to not put my, I guess my need to be wanted into other people and, start really going about this the right way. Cause it's I don't want it to do what I fear is going to happen and me just relying on other people to fill in holes that I don't, I haven't fixed or anything like that.
Correct.
I mean, I really do feel like this is the time that you got to invest in it. Like, I know you
Yeah.
said that you're busy,
Yeah.
but like
I know.
the thing with that is if you don't sort of like how you always are up on your physical look.
Oh yeah.
You eat the right things, you go to the gym. If you're too busy and you don't make it to the gym, then you work out in our garage or you go for a run. Your mental health
Yeah.
and your soul is the same way. If you don't attend to it, if you don't upkeep it, it's going to be in poor health, which will then spill out into your physical self.
Yeah.
And so you have dealt with so much trauma in the past 6 months.
Hmm.
You have got to take care of that. And you have got to, you can talk to me, you can talk to Holly, we can listen and we'll be there. But like Holly said, you've got to get those tools to be able to understand what it is you're feeling
Yeah.
and how to process that because it's just been happening to you. And of course, you feel powerless because it feels like you are the most positive person I've ever met in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I used to take the mantle as being the most positive person in my life in the world. And then I turned 30 and then it just went downhill from there.
Yeah.
But
They
like
flip.
you are the most positive person. And I can tell you as a person who was and tries to be the most positive person, it's not the case. You can fake it till you make it a lot, but that's not how you truly feel inside. That's why you've got to process and understand where those feelings are coming from and how to deal with it.
And speaking of trauma and tools, and this is just a note on therapy because it's so we've just been talking about mental health. It's so important, but like why? And I'm like, what are these tools? Like, what are you talking about? Because one of your friends say, well, why don't you just talk to your friend?
Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me, not really,
Or
just
a
kind of an
listener, I think
acquaintance,
it was a
yeah,
listener.
and they were just like, why do you need to do that? Why don't you just, talk to friends about it and
Right.
everything?
Well, let me give you an example of a tool that I'm going to embark on in 2 weeks with my therapist. So, a big issue for me is, and this actually relates to what we were talking about earlier with dating and why I had such a difficult time dating
Yeah.
because I'm a people pleaser. I am I'm codependent or I'm recovering codependent where I always like try to figure out how people are feeling. I'm also an empath, so it's easy for me. It's like my superpower. Like I can tell when someone that I'm close to is feeling some type of way. So if I'm on a date, I will automatically try to like morph myself into like something that makes them feel good, which is terrible for dating. But anyway, why did I get that way? My mom. And so I have and I had up until when I started therapy last year, this whole unprocessed because it was unknown to me trauma with how I got to be that way.
Mm.
So it came up in therapy this past week. We talked about some other stuff with my person, and once that was done, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, that was great," because I figured that out. It's like a weights lifted. You're like, "Check that box. Now I know what I'm dealing with. Okay,
Right.
we got boom, moved on." But then I came back to, I'm like, okay, so the other day, and remember 2 weeks ago when I got upset on the air when I first got in because my mom had come down and
Mm.
yelled at me at like
Yes.
4:30 in the damn morning.
Yeah.
Right.
So I started talking about that with my therapist, and I was like, it feels like, and so what starts to happen and has been happening are when my boundaries are crossed. I have a hard time putting them back up again because it's like how many freaking times I got to put these boundaries up. And when I come home after work, I do it quietly. Like
Mm.
I'm sneaking into my own house so
Yeah.
that my mom doesn't know that I'm home.
Mm.
And yeah, you don't understand. Like I open the door quietly and then I close it quietly behind me and then I go in. And if I hear her open her door and start to like slum down the stairs, I'm like, and I get
Mm.
like this way. And so my therapist is like, well, where do you feel that like in your body? Where
Right.
does that hit you? And I'm like, okay, so I put myself in that thing and I'm like, usually I feel that sense of like dread almost in my chest area.
Mm.
So then, and we didn't fully go into the exercise yet, but I'm getting to the point of this. She's like, okay, think about like maybe one of the first, doesn't have to be the first, but like one of the first times that you felt that way in your life. Could be in childhood, could be like in high school or even college, whenever. So I thought about that. And she's like, okay, so what we're gonna do next time, which is gonna my visits with her is gonna be not next week, but the week after,
Mhm.
is something called EMDR. And it's a type of therapy. I don't even know how to explain it. They do like this bilateral thing, and it works usually better like in person, but because of COVID, my therapy is all online. But there's a special website we're going to use. And I don't know how the website works yet, but I do know from knowing my person went through this. His therapist, like you get both your hands out, like your therapist sits in front of you,
Mhm.
and they tap one hand and then the other. So you're getting stimulated, like a physical stimulation, but I believe for me, it's going to be audible, like
Mm.
a click over here and then a click over here.
Mhm.
But it stimulates both sides of your body. Okay. So it's like a tap here, a tap there. And as they're tapping you, and like your body is getting signals on both sides of your brain,
Right.
you go back and talk through that first time or one of the first times you ever felt that tightness in your chest.
Mm.
So you click through and then you pull it out to the present. Well, when's the last time that I felt this way? And you're still doing the clicking thing. And I can't explain it because I'm not a therapist, but something about that bilateral brain activity
Mm.
makes it so that because what happened, and this would be for you, Scott, this would be like within the last 6 months of year of trauma for you. What happened to me was like what happened in childhood. When that happens, and hopefully this will, help you before you get to where I'm at when that happens for me as a kid, my brain couldn't deal with that. Kid brains don't.
It's
Or
too
like it's
much.
too much for even
Right. You
an
can't
adult brain. Some of it's too
process.
much. So it stays almost like in a little cube
Mm.
Mm.
in an area of your brain and your brain doesn't deal with it anymore, but it's still there affecting you.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what this tapping does or the clicking does on either side is it allows both sides of your brain to kind of open up and address that trauma so
Mm.
that your adult active brain can process it.
Mm.
So when I say tools, and when we say tools in therapy, that is
It's
just
literally
one
tools.
of many where it can like literally physically help you process it. So when
Right.
someone, it just frustrates me because it comes from ignorance. They didn't know.
Right.
When someone says, oh, why don't you just talk it out with your friend can't do that for you.
No, they're just listening. That's
Right.
it.
And
You're
that's,
not
like I
dealing with
said,
it.
that's just one of many tools that
Right.
in therapy they can help you process. And that goes for any trauma where it's that thing. But there's other ones too, where it's like, now I see what you mean when you say tools, because you're actively processing it. You're
Mm.
actively taking steps to your own recovery.
Yeah.
So know that that's something maybe they'll do with you. Maybe they'll do some other totally different thing that I ain't never heard of.
Right.
Yeah.
But you need it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get off my therapy box.
No,
now.
but it makes sense. I mean, that's why I feel like you've got to put on your calendar, like Tuesday at 3 p.m.
all you
I'm
need to
dedicating an hour to do the research
Get
and
a
to find a
therapist.
therapist.
Yeah.
and once you make that first appointment, it gets easier because then once you do the
That's-
first appointment, then you just automatically schedule the
That's
next
how
one.
that's how it's been with everything else. It's like, okay, just get like when I first went to like the grief session, I was like, okay, just get there.
Right.
Because if I get there, I kick out the fear of already like even approaching a new situation. And
Right.
it was amazing once I
Mhm.
went. And like now it's just so much easier if I want to go again. And I will start going again to those too. But that's exactly it. Like me finding a therapist,
Mhm.
making that appointment, and then making it happen. I'm like, okay.
One foot
hardest
in
part
front of the
is-
other.
is the
Yeah.
first
Just
step.
do it. Just like how you always encourage me or anyone else, just go to the gym. Just walk through the door.
Yeah, it's that one step. Yeah.
Just make that phone call.
Yeah.
That's
no, I
it.
will. It's very soon. Very, very soon.
Mm.
All right. Well, we got to head out of here.
Oh yeah, we have a meeting.
Yeah, we have a meeting we got to get on Microsoft Teams for.
Teams meeting.
Scott, what's your social media?
My social media is at Scott Tavlin, SCOTTTAVLIN.
Holly.
Radio Holly on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I want to reiterate how glad I am again. I'm not on the damn Facebook. Oh God, I have to go on for like the work.
Mhm.
And then this morning when I went on, I was like, you see, this is why I'm not on, because people are insane.
Girl, just
So
too
yeah,
much.
just TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter for me, boo.
Miguel Fuller, MiguelFuller on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Radio Miguel on the Facebooks. You
Navigating that savage world.
Right. And you can also hit up the Miguel and Holly YouTube page, live watch this on there, and make sure wherever you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast platform to leave us a review and a rating, please. We appreciate it. And if you want a Miguel and Holly sticker for being in the Platypus Posse, just shoot me an email, Miguel at hot1015tampabay.com. We'll see you next week.
Catch up with the previous episodes of the Miguel and Holly Uncensored podcast from Hot 101.5.
Just hit up the Hot 101.5 app, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Search Miguel and Holly Uncensored.